Some stories only need to be heard once. Some stories do not need to be heard over and over. Just once can be enough to make you sit in silence and look at your life differently. Maybe today you feel exhausted. Maybe you feel behind, hopeless, lost, or simply disappointed in who you have become. If that is true, then do not skip this video, because this is not only the story of someone who hit rock bottom. It is the story of how a person, after losing almost everything, still found a way to stand back up. And sometimes what we need most is not advice. It is proof that even when life pushes you down very deep, your chance to rise again is not gone yet. He once had ordinary things, but they mattered. There was a man who once had a life that was not perfect, but stable enough to make him believe he was still on the right path. An ordinary job, a few meaningful relationships, a future that was unclear but still hopeful. He was not rich, not outstanding, not the kind of person others automatically admired, but at least he once felt that his life still had direction. Then things started breaking apart, one piece at a time. He lost the job first, then money slowly ran out. Pressure turned into conflict. The people who once stayed close began drifting away. He did not lose everything in a single day, but that slow collapse hurt more, because with every passing day, he could feel another part of his life disappearing. Hitting rock bottom is not always loud. People often imagine rock bottom as a dramatic moment, a huge collapse, a visible disaster, a clear breakdown. But for him, rock bottom was quiet. It was the moment he no longer wanted to leave the bed, when even replying to one message felt too heavy, when hearing his phone ring made him feel tired, when he looked in the mirror and no longer recognized his own eyes. The most painful part was not the lost job or the lost money. It was the feeling that he was no longer anyone. He had moments where he sat for hours staring into empty space, no tears, no anger, no resistance, just exhaustion. And that is the most dangerous part. Not when you lose everything, but when you stop fighting and start getting used to sinking. No one came to save him. For a long time, he kept waiting for a better phone call, waiting for a new opportunity, waiting to feel more stable, waiting for someone to understand him enough to pull him out of that season. But no one came. No miracle happened. No morning arrived where everything suddenly felt brighter. Then, one ordinary morning, he looked at himself in the mirror and understood something painful. If he kept waiting, he would slowly die inside that waiting. No one could live for him. No one could take responsibility for him. No one could pull him out of that pit if he still refused to move. That moment was not beautiful, not cinematic, but it was real. And sometimes, one truth with nowhere left to hide is enough to wake a person up. He did not rise with one big leap. What matters is that he did not change his life in one day. There was no dramatic transformation, no perfect plan, no heroic promise. He began with very small things: cleaning his sleeping space, taking a proper shower, walking for 10 minutes, eating one honest meal, writing down one task for the day. Those things were too small for others to find impressive. But for someone who had spent too long in surrender, they were everything. Because for the first time in a long time, he stopped betraying himself in the smallest things. He did not rescue his whole life in one day. He only tried to rescue that one day first. And that created the first movement, something he had been missing for a very long time. What came back first was not success, it was faith. Many people think they need results before they can believe again. But for him, what returned first was not money, opportunity, or success. What came back first was the feeling that he could still do something. Every time he woke up on time, faith came back a little. Every time he completed a small task, faith came back a little. Every day he did not quit, faith came back a little. It did not return like lightning. It did not explode in one dramatic night. It came back slowly like a weak sprout after a storm. And because it was slow, he learned something important. Strength does not always come before action. Very often, repeated action is what quietly pulls strength back into your life. Other people didn't see it yet, but he knew he was changing. At first, no one noticed anything. His external life still had not improved much. He still did not have more money. The problems had not disappeared. But inside, he knew he was no longer the same person. He was no longer lying still while time passed over him. No longer waiting for the right mood before beginning. No longer treating exhaustion as an excuse to stop caring. That changed him at the root. And eventually, other people began noticing too. Not because he suddenly became successful, but because his eyes were different. His voice was different. His presence was different. When a person begins believing in themselves again, they do not need to say much. Others can feel that something inside them has come back to life. Getting back up does not mean there are no more bad days. The best part of this story is that it is not fake. After getting back up, he still had hard days. He still had moments of doubt, still had mornings when he wanted to become the old version of himself again, because that version felt easier and more familiar. But now, he no longer treated those days as proof that he had failed. He understood that one bad day cannot erase an entire journey. One setback cannot define a whole person. One slow season does not mean the end. That is what real maturity looks like. Not always being strong, but refusing to abandon yourself when you are weak. And maybe that is the part you need most today. You do not need to be okay right now in order to still have hope. The biggest thing he learned. After everything, the biggest lesson he learned was not how to never lose again. It was this: even after losing, a person can still rebuild. You do not need everything to be perfect before you begin again. You do not need absolute certainty before you move. You only need to be honest enough with yourself to admit that you do not want to keep living like this. Life does not promise fairness. It does not promise gentleness. It does not promise that after effort, reward will come immediately. But it always leaves you with one powerful right, the right to begin again. And no one can take that away from you unless you let go of yourself completely. He once lost almost everything, but what saved him was not luck. It was the moment he chose to stand on his own side again. If you are at the bottom today, please don't decide your life is over. If today you are close to the bottom, exhausted, hopeless, lost, and overwhelmed, then please do not rush to believe your life is over. This story is not here to promise that everything will be easy. It only wants to remind you of one thing. Someone once lost almost everything and still found a way to stand up again. So if you are still here, then you still have a chance. Maybe not the chance to return to the life you used to have, but the chance to build a new one that is truer, stronger, and more meaningful. If this video spoke to you, do not let it end in emotion alone. Turn it into one small action today. And if you need a place to return to whenever you feel close to falling again, stay with this channel. We will meet again on the road back up. If you enjoyed this, please click the subscribe button below. I'd really appreciate a like and a subscription to support the channel and help you catch even more great videos in the future. Thank you so much.